And next up, we have War Core Book Number 1, Holding the Line, a LitRPG RTS Dungeon Core adventure written by Dean Hennigar. Okay, this is 260 pages, $4.99. It's available on Kindle Limited, and here's the author's description. Earth is under siege. For decades, the governments of our world have been fighting a desperate and secret battle to keep hordes of alien invaders away from our planet. When the Guardian of the United States falls, a new champion must be chosen. Sadly, the choice of a champion isn't ours to make, and the Galactic Conflict Authority selects a human, seemingly at random, to lead the United States of America's efforts to hold back the tide. Hugh Logan is in the middle of a teaching class when he is taken against his will and informed that he is now the newest member of Earth's defense against alien invasion. He must give up everything to become our champion. He must give up everything to prevent our destruction. He must become a war core. Okay, the novel itself has a kind of a unique premise to justify the RTS base building, the real-time strategy. Base building that aliens and humans are secretly fighting each other over parts of the universe. It almost sets Earth's leaders as the bad guys, as they basically murder the main character to get him to participate in as a war core. It's completely unneeded in my opinion, but it is, unique at least. The story doesn't really feel like a Dungeon Core novel at all, as it has more in common with a real-time strategy game, where the main character appears over a predetermined terrain and from a simple base gathering resources, builds units, and expands and fights. That's what the story is. Those are the game mechanics. There is RPG progression for the main character as a core, and also for the units he's building. So there is that type of like RTS progression system, and so that is RPG-ish. So it works in that respect. The actual Dungeon Core portion of this, I don't really think it is, because it's not staying in one location. It's not like building defenses and having adventurers come in, which is really more of what a Dungeon Core story is for me, at least. This story is again more of an RTS game, a real-time strategy kind of game system, and that's perfectly fine. I just expected it to be something slightly different because it does say like Dungeon Core adventure, and that's definitely not what this is. And that's kind of where the problem lies a little bit for me, in that the fights for me were boring. Unfortunately, I don't enjoy watching real-time strategy game videos on the internet or watching like live matches. I'd rather play the game myself. And I like real-time strategy games, just that I like playing them, not watching them. For some reason, that's not entertaining for me. For other people, it absolutely is. Like, there's a huge fan base of like people who watch real-time strategy game videos and have a really good time with it. I know some of them, but for me, it just wasn't entertaining. So these fights very much reflect that kind of style of fighting. The main character is removed from any sense of danger. He's not actually there as a dungeon core, so even if like the dungeon is destroyed and he loses the battle, he's not in any danger. The side consequence of him losing a battle is that Earth loses a section of a galaxy or territory in their system that they're not using. It's an empty space. The long-term threat is that aliens are in our system and they might come for Earth at some point if we lose enough territory. That's really kind of a long-distance, vague premise to kind of set up in. So it is what it is. There are interesting strategies that the author provides, or the main character does, I should say, as they're playing, and it thought like, oh, that is an interesting thing that you're doing, or that's an interesting way to take advantage of the system, or the constraints, the rules that are agreed upon by the two sides as they fight. But for me, overall, it just wasn't engaged, because a lot of the story revolves around these fights, and they weren't engaging for me. And the side stories outside of those fights were like, Earth is kind of a jerk. Like the people who are forcing the main character into this situation murdered him without telling him to be a Dungeon Core, and his interactions with them aren't that engaging for me. So I'm like, okay, that's just me though. People who love watching resource gathering and sometimes dry descriptions of units being built may like the story more than me, and that's perfectly okay. But for me, it was not entertaining. It was boring for me. So that's War Core Book Number 1 with a score of 5 out of 10. Boring for me, but hey, like I said, if you like real-time strategy games and watching them as videos or watching matches, you may enjoy this more than me.